The original plans for Endgame were too dark for Marvel Studios. Marvel almost shipped a darker Endgame, mass sacrifice, a severed head entrance, and an Asgard vault heist that never made it to theaters. But here's what nobody's talking about. I've got receipts from SDCC 2019 panels, Blu-ray commentaries, and trade interviews proving these weren't fan theories. They were filmed scenes and approved scripts axed at the last minute. Which version would have actually made Endgame better? Let me break down what's solid versus speculation here. On record means direct quotes from Kevin Feige, the Russo Brothers, or writers Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely with exact dates. Likely means multiple reputable sources align without contradiction. Rumor means single-source chatter that can't be traced to the principals. We're talking about the main MCU timeline here, not multiverse variants. These were all concepts for the same Endgame we got, just way more brutal. Here's the problem. Marvel's original plans consistently chose shock over emotional clarity, and every single one got rejected for the same reason. On record, Kevin Feige's original pitch called for all 6 original Avengers to die in one massive group sacrifice. Joe Russo revealed this in the Story of Marvel Studios book, October 2021. Feige literally compared it to Toy Story 3, where the toys hold hands and accept their fate in the incinerator. Picture the final battle. Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye all making one coordinated sacrifice play. Maybe they'd hold the Infinity Stones together, each taking cosmic energy until it killed them all. Think about that business reality. After 11 years building these characters, Marvel almost said, nope, they're all dead, thanks for playing. But killing all 6 would have been franchise suicide. Marvel had mapped out Phase 4 and needed connective tissue, characters who could pass the torch and provide emotional continuity. The Russos pushed back hard. According to Anthony Russo's Collider interview from February 2019, they ran 4 test screenings where not a single person got up to go to the bathroom for the first 3. They used bathroom breaks as engagement metrics. Imagine testing the mass death version. Audiences might have been too traumatized to process what they'd watched. But it gets darker. Verified. The writers planned Thanos' entrance carrying Captain America's severed head from the 2012 timeline. Anthony Russo confirmed this at Entertainment Weekly's Comic-Con interview July 18, 2019. Christopher Marcus said they clung to that storyline for so long just for that psychological warfare moment. The scene would have unfolded like this. 2014, Thanos learns about the time heist from 2014 Nebula, travels to 2012, and systematically hunts down that timeline's Avengers. He kills them all, saves Captain America for last, then brings Steve's head to 2023 as a trophy. Picture the theater reaction. Thanos walking through a portal, dropping Cap's head at the feet of our heroes, basically saying, I killed you once, what are you gonna do about it? Here's the MPAA reality check that killed this concept. Disney needs that PG-13 rating for global domination. It's the difference between $2.8 billion worldwide and maybe half that with an R rating. The severed head scene pushes straight into R-rated territory. Plus, China's content guidelines would have guaranteed a ban in multiple key markets, costing hundreds of millions in revenue. Then there's merchandising. How do you sell Captain America action figures when his most memorable scene involves decapitation? They chose quiet menace over gore, and that restraint made Thanos more terrifying. Now here's the twist. The time heist almost looked completely different. Documented. Tony Stark wasn't originally going back to the Battle of New York. Marcus and McFeely revealed in their New York Times interview, April 29, 2019, that Tony was heading to Asgard to infiltrate Odin's vault using a stealth suit and steal the Tesseract before Loki could grab it. But here's what makes this even more ambitious. Tony wasn't just after the Tesseract. The writers planned a 2-for-1 heist, where he'd also extract the ether from Jane Foster during Thor, the Dark World events. Think about the precision timing required. The stealth suit concept represented Tony's evolution from flashy showboat to strategic thinker. Instead of announcing his presence with repulsors blazing, he'd rely on wit and invisibility. But there's one Asgardian his technology can't fool. Heimdall, whose all-seeing eyes perceive across dimensions. Picture the confrontation. Heimdall senses the invisible intruder, and Tony has to think fast. The sequence would have been visually stunning. Asgard's golden architecture, Odin's treasure vault, Tony's technology clashing with magical defenses. But here's the exposition problem. Audiences would need to understand Odin's vault, the fake infinity gauntlet, the ether's containment, and Heimdall's abilities. Watch this trade-off. The Battle of New York delivered instant emotional payoff. Audiences immediately recognized the setting, understood the stakes, felt the nostalgia. No exposition required. They chose readability over lore density, and that's why the time heist works. Would you trade PG-13 for a harder-hitting villain entrance? Receipts incoming. We've got Feige's mass death concept from the Marvel Studios book, Russo Brothers confirming the severed head at SDCC 2019, and the Asgard heist details from the NYT interview. Proven, the time heist almost gave us Thor versus his younger self. Joe Russo revealed on Happy Sad Confused podcast May 7th, 2019 that they considered having broken Thor face off against Prime 2013 Thor in Asgard. Picture it, two gods of thunder, both wielding hammers, lightning exploding everywhere. The character implications would have been fascinating. Broken Thor confronting his past arrogance, his younger self not understanding the weight of failure. But here's the tonal tightrope. The Fat Thor storyline was already controversial. A comedic fight between two Thors could have pushed criticism over the edge, making light of depression and PTSD. Joe Russo specifically said the only person who could put him together would be Frigga. They chose healing over spectacle, and Thor's conversation with his mother became one of the most heartfelt moments in the film. The Frigga scene served multiple functions: emotional resolution for Thor, farewell to Rene Russo's character, and reinforcement of themes about accepting failure. One more twist. Even the Vormir sacrifice looked completely different. Film. The quiet standoff between Natasha and Clint was originally interrupted by Thanos' troops. This deleted scene appears on Disney Plus Extras, November 12, 2019. Instead of an intimate duel of wills, it became a brutal firefight. Natasha gets shot multiple times and crawls across Vormir's surface while under fire, determined to make the sacrifice. The sequence adds action, but fundamentally changes the meaning of her death. Here's why agency matters more than spectacle. In the final version, Natasha's sacrifice is conscious choice made from love. In the deleted version, it becomes circumstance and survival instinct. There's also the Infinity War parallel. Thanos sacrifices Gamora selfishly for his mission. Natasha's sacrifice needed to be the opposite: selfless love putting others first. The firefight version muddied that contrast. Likely, Marvel almost included a major comics homage with Nebula wielding the Infinity Gauntlet. Concept art from Stephen Sherrill surfaced in 2020 showing 2014 Nebula wearing the gauntlet during the final battle. In the original comics, Nebula briefly steals the gauntlet from Thanos and becomes cosmically powerful. Having her wield it against her abusive father would have been poetic justice. But Endgame was building toward Tony's sacrifice. If Nebula grabbed the gauntlet first, even briefly, it risked stealing attention from Iron Man's defining moment. The story needed one clear emotional climax, not a detour. Instead, they gave Nebula that confrontation with her younger self, symbolically breaking free from years of abuse. She earned her Avengers place through growth, not just spectacle. Does agency matter more than spectacle in a sacrifice scene? Now, for the most heartbreaking cut, right after Tony's snap, Endgame almost took us to the soul world. Shot and tested. They filmed Tony meeting adult Morgan, played by Catherine Langford from 13 Reasons Why. The scene was designed to mirror Thanos seeing young Gamora. Tony would face the grown woman his daughter would become, giving him peace before death. The thematic parallel should have worked perfectly. Thanos sees young Gamora as a reminder of his cruelty. Tony sees adult Morgan as vision of hope and legacy. It tested cold. A new face at the peak emotional beat confused viewers and slowed the goodbye, according to Russo Brothers commentary August 2019. Test audiences had spent 2 hours connecting with young Morgan. Introducing Catherine Langford created cognitive dissonance at the worst possible moment. They kept Pepper's "You Can Rest Now" because it delivers the same closure with cleaner momentum. They tested it, then killed it. Here's what's fascinating about these alternate paths. They reveal Marvel's decision framework. Across every fork, Endgame chose emotional clarity over shock value, character agency over circumstance, and audience comprehension over insider complexity. The mass death concept got rejected because it would overwhelm audiences and destroy franchise continuity. The severed head entrance got vetoed for risking PG-13 rating essential for global success. The Asgard heist got simplified because Battle of New York delivered nostalgia without exposition load. Thor's duel became healing conversation because spectacle without emotional payoff is empty. The Vormir firefight became intimate sacrifice because Natasha's choice needed to feel personal. The Soul World scene got cut because test audiences couldn't connect with new characters at the climax. Every choice prioritized emotional resonance with the broadest audience while staying true to individual character journeys. But here's what survived and why it worked. The final film gave us targeted sacrifices that felt earned. Natasha choosing to save her found family after a lifetime of being used as a weapon. Tony finally putting others before himself after starting as the most selfish character in the MCU. Steve getting his happy ending with Peggy after a lifetime of service. Each Avenger left on their own terms instead of one massive group death. That balance between tears and smiles, mourning and celebration, made Endgame more than just goodbye. It became tribute to 11 years of storytelling. The decision framework was consistent. Clarity over shock, agency over chaos, readability over lore sprawl. That's why Endgame became a cultural phenomenon instead of just another superhero movie. Receipts check. We've got the Toy Story 3 comparison from Marvel Studios book. Severed head confirmation from SDCC 2019. Asgard heist from NYT interview. Frigga scene reasoning from podcast. Vormir firefight from Disney Plus extras. And Soul World cut from Blu-ray commentary. Marvel explored multiple ways to give characters closure, filming entire scenes, then cutting them when they didn't serve the story. That's expensive filmmaking, but it's why the final product resonated globally. The alternate versions reveal the creative process, bold ideas tested against audience reality. Sometimes the simplest choice is most powerful. Pepper's Quiet, You Can Rest Now, hit harder than Metaphysical Soul World Goodbye because it felt immediate and intimate. Looking at these decisions, you can see why Endgame worked. Instead of maximum shock or comics accuracy, they went for maximum heart. The film balanced spectacle with character, action with emotion, endings with beginnings. Every rejected concept taught them something. Mass sacrifice was too heavy. The severed head was too dark. The Asgard heist was too complex. The Thor fight was too comedic. The Vormir firefight was too circumstantial. The Soul World was too confusing. What survived was what served the characters and audience best. Targeted, meaningful deaths, nostalgic, familiar settings, healing conversations over flashy battles, personal choices over external circumstances, simple goodbyes over complex metaphysics. That's the difference between good movie and cultural phenomenon. Knowing when to choose heart over spectacle, clarity over complexity, emotion over shock. The alternate Endgame would have been darker, more violent, more comics accurate, but it wouldn't have been better. The version we got prioritized what mattered most, giving these characters and their 11-year journey the ending they deserved. Which cut would you restore? Mass Sacrifice, Asgard Heist, or Soul World Farewell? Education and entertainment only, not insider advice. But these decisions show Marvel's evolution from shock value storytelling to emotional intelligence. They learned that audiences don't just want to be surprised, they want to be moved. Next, I'll break down the time travel rule fights between writers and directors that almost broke the MCU timeline. Drop the one cut you'd restore and why in the comments, and I'll know there's demand for that deep dive.